If only you guys could smell what's going on in this kitchen here. Chris here, CaribbeanPot.com. Welcome to my kitchen. It's always a pleasure to have you guys here with me as I do up my thing. If it's your first time here watching me on YouTube, below click subscribe. All the latest videos are going to be sent to you. Today, and that is what you just saw in the pot there, today we're doing the ultimate curry beef. I've had a request for a curry beef recipe. So here we go, guys. The ultimate curry beef. You're going to love it. The trick to having this, the ultimate curry beef, is to season it up properly. And when I say season, I mean really season, like a good Caribbean way. And first off, I've got here about 3/4 teaspoon of salt. You can use less salt if you want. That is totally up to you. By the way, 3 pounds of beef, cubed up, nice big pieces. You can go smaller if you want. And a cheap cut of beef, you don't need to go to anything expensive. Stewing beef, that's good enough. So the salt is in there. I'm just going to go in with some fresh ground black pepper. I have here 1 chopped up tomato, and the tomato may sound a little bit strange to some of you, but what happens here is later on in the cooking process, when we start braising this, that tomato is going to come in handy. The acid from that, as well as the texture of it, will help thicken up our gravy nicely. I'm going to go in with 1 teaspoon of curry powder. And again, something most of you will not be using traditionally in your curry, some ketchup. I've gone in there with about 3/4 tablespoons of ketchup. It may sound a little bit strange, but trust me on this. A heaping tablespoon of Caribbean green seasoning. In the description of this video below, I will list all the ingredients that we used here, as well as a link to the recipe for that Caribbean green seasoning. Here I have half of a Scotch bonnet pepper, and there's the seeds and everything else in there. I like my curry, even our daughters, they eat it very spicy. And here is that Scotch bonnet pepper. If you notice in the center here where all the seeds and everything are here, that sort of white membrane, that is where the pure fire is. Try not to include that if you're scared of the heat. Although I added that green seasoning, which already has thyme in there, I just still like adding another sprig in there. That's going to help brighten up this dish. I've got here 3/4 teaspoon of anchar masala, and it is very smoky, very dark. If you can't get anchar masala, you can use maybe about half a teaspoon of ground cumin, or we call it, how do we call it in the Caribbean? Not cumin, jeera, roasted jeera. In goes 1 scallion that I chopped up, and all we're going to do now at this point is to really give this a good mix and allow it to marinate. And I'm going to mix off camera. Really mix it up, let that marinate for at least 2 hours in the fridge. I've got my nice heavy Dutchy iron pot here on high heat. In goes 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil. And since the pot was already hot, I'm going to toss in half of a small onion that I chopped up finely. And in my mortar and pestle here, I crushed up 4 cloves of garlic, which I'm just going to add into the pot here. Give that a quick stir. And turn the heat down all the way down to low. We want this to sweat, cook, get soft, and release a lot of flavors without burning. After 3 minutes or so, we're going to add in the curry powder, and that is 1.5 tablespoons of Madras curry powder, a blend out of the Caribbean. My heat is still on low. All we're doing at this point now is toasting that curry in here. Let that go for about 2 minutes. Keep stirring it so it doesn't burn. After about 2 minutes or so, we're going to add 3 tablespoons of water in here. My heat is still on low, and you really want to stir this around. Actually, you know what? We're going to add some more water in there, because in total there's going to be about 3.5 tablespoons of water in here. It's going to form a sort of a slurry on the bottom there, and it is what we're doing at this point. So first we toasted that curry powder, and now what we've done here is cook the curry so you don't get that raw curry taste. I'm gonna toss in here, I've got 2 leaves of shado beni, also called culantro or bandana, and this is how it looks in its original state. So a couple of leaves of that I chopped up finely. If you can't get shado beni or culantro, use about 2 tablespoons of cilantro, and I'm just going to grate in about a 1/4 teaspoon of fresh ginger in there. That ginger is really going to brighten up this curry. Let that go. We want to try and burn off all that water that's in there, all that liquid, so we really heighten all the flavors. After you start seeing all that liquid burnt up, it's going to go grainy, it's going to go darker in color. Give it a quick stir. Turn up your heat to about medium high or so, because we really want this to toast down and to really enhance all that flavors. Now we're going to start adding all of that lovely seasoned marinated beef that we have. So my heat is on high, and in goes all of that lovely marinated beef. All the tomato, the onion, everything that's in here, tomato and green onions and everything, going into the pot. So just continue adding the seasoned beef to the pot and keep stirring. The seasoned beef should start picking up all that lovely curry base from the bottom of the pot. You're almost deglazing it with the seasoned beef here. Next up, turn your heat down to medium and put the lid over the pot. Let that go for about 10 minutes. It's going to release its own juices. Just wanted to quickly show you guys. In the same bowl that I marinated the beef in, you will notice there was still quite a bit of marinade left back in there. So what I did was I poured in 2 cups of water in there. We're going to use this now, so we get all that lovely ingredients into the pot. We're going to use this to help braise that beef and really make it nice and tender. The pot's been going now for about 10 minutes. Remember I told you guys it's going to release a lot of its own juices, so here we go. There's a ton of liquid in here, but what I want to do at this point, before we add the braising liquid to the pot, I want to burn this liquid off. So I'm going to turn my heat up to high, and the reason why I want to burn this liquid out is I want to intensify the flavor of the curry and infuse it into that beef, because at the end I won't be cooking this down dry. I want it to have a nice gravy at the end of cooking. So we're just going to burn this liquid off. Pay attention to it, keep stirring it, and remember to keep an eye on it. You don't want it to burn, you just want that liquid to dry off. Most of that liquid is gone now. I'm starting to see that little bit of oil that we started off with, so that's exactly where we want it to be. The kitchen smelling wicked. Speaking about wicked, this thing smelling so good, I'm going to turn on the fan above the stove here, pump that scent outside. Let me get the neighbors and them with the drool on. So with all that liquid burnt off now, what we're going to do is add the braising liquid to this. Remember that 2 cups of water we had in the same bowl that we marinated the beef in? All of that's going to go in there. Give that a quick stir. My heat is still on high because I want to bring this back up to a boil rapidly. Then we're going to reduce the heat and let that simmer and braise for about 1 hour and 20 minutes. Yeah, you heard me right. The pieces of beef are big, fairly big in size. We want this to be fork tender. Smelling wicked in here. It's come up to a boil now, so like I said, I'm going to turn my heat down to low. We want that to gently simmer. Lid on. Let that go until it's nice and tender. The curry beef has been braising now for about 1 hour and 25 minutes because I like it nice and tender. Give it a quick stir. Remember, ever so often, every 5-10 minutes to give it a stir. I've got some nice thick gravy happening here. So what I'm going to do is shut off my stove because this I know is good. Taste it for salt while you're at it. Add a little bit more if you guys need it. You can certainly cook off more of the gravy if you want, but I need this for my rice and my dal. So this is it, the ultimate curry beef. Chris here, CaribbeanPot.com. It's always a pleasure to have you guys here in the kitchen. I do hope you guys give this curry beef, the ultimate curry beef, a try. Yeah, it takes about a couple hours to really braise down and get all that nice flavor, but it's well worth it. Check Check out CaribbeanPot.com. You'll find that recipe on there. And don't forget to tell your friends about all the good things we're doing, spreading the Caribbean culinary culture.